Is Rise gonna be absolutely broken? I don't know, guys, but I'm actually really worried. What's going on, Summoners? Welcome back to another ProGuides High ELO tier list. Like always, we've sifted through all the data to bring you guys yet another set of tier lists targeted at our friends in Platinum and higher. If you haven't already, make sure to take a look at our patch rundown video where we extensively cover every change. This series does carry some nuance as champions' strengths vary a bit in higher ELO. Make sure to stay tuned because we're going to cover every role. But before we start, I want you guys to know that if you're trying to improve before the end of the season, ProGuides.com is where you need to go. We've got so many resources there and you don't want to miss out on them. They're going to help you improve so much. We have classes, courses, and even coaches there that can help you get better at League of Legends. Finally, for our question of the day, which League of Legends champion would you love to see make a cameo appearance in other games? Given that Set is a brawler that likes to get up close, I'd love to see him guest star in some fighting games. It would be pretty awesome to see someone from Runeterra universe show up randomly elsewhere, like seeing a familiar face where you would least expect. Let me know your answers in the comments below. With that being said, let's hop into the video. Beginning with the top lane, let's go over balance changes starting with Maokai. His Q's damage was reduced from 70 to 250 to 70 to 230. The loss of 20 damage on it is an impactful nerf across every rank. In high ELO, this is also the case, and we're making an identical shift to the one we made in our patch rundown. Maokai will be moved into the A tier this patch. He's still proving to be a great pick, but it's tough to say with confidence that he'll remain an S tier pick with this nerf. At best, he's on the border of the A and S tier, but another way to look at it is to recognize that Maokai is still a great pick, just not as strong as before. This patch, Kled was also victim to a minor nerf. His magic resistance was decreased from 32.1 to 28. The goal of this change is to open up some more counterplay. Especially in the mid lane, this should make it easier to counterpick Kled and hopefully find some success against him. With this minor of a nerf, we don't feel the need to move Kled and he will remain in the A tier for now. Aatrox has been buffed this patch. The healing bonus from his ultimate has been increased from 50 to 70% to 50 to 100%. This is a hefty buff as it significantly increases Aatrox's sustain and durability. However, given Aatrox's track record and the fact that games in high ELO tend to end faster, it won't have too much of an effect on Aatrox's win rate. So we're leaving him in the B tier for now. Illaoi was buffed in a similar way this patch. Her passive tentacle spawn cooldown was reduced from 20 to 12 seconds to 20 to 8 seconds. Not very well known for her late game. We don't think this buff will have a significant impact on Illaoi's performance. While yes, she's definitely going to feel stronger with a shorter tentacle spawn, her early and mid game remain about the same. We'll leave Illaoi in the B tier for now, but she's very close to the A tier and we'll let you guys know if this buff actually makes a massive impact for her in our mid-patch update that'll be coming up soon. Just like last patch, we've got the same old picks in the OP and S tiers. For our OP picks, we have Darius, Fiora, and Camille. Following up in the S tier are Shen, Wukong, Jax, Hecarim, and Urgot. That'll cover our changes for the top lane, so next up, let's run through the jungle. First up in the jungle is a nerf to Karthus. His base armor was reduced from 20.88 to 18. Riot stated that this nerf was intended to specifically target bottom lane Karthus as he felt a little bit too strong as a pick overall. While his win rates have suffered even in the jungle, Karthus continues to dominate in high ELO. He's slightly squishier than before, but it turns out that high ELO players had no problem shrugging off these changes this patch, thus we will leave Karthus where he is, in the S tier. Nunu's armor was also reduced this patch. In his case, it went down from 32 to 29. Nunu has been finding way too much success in Riot's eyes and has merited a nerf. Considering how impactful his ganks are and how tanky he feels, taking away a little bit of armor should make fighting early on a bit easier than before. Like with Karthus, this nerf hasn't had a very big impact in high ELO, and players are still using Nunu with great amounts of success, so he will also remain in the S tier. In an effort to expand the jungle champion pool, Riot has decided to give Urgot some love. The damage cap on Urgot's passive to jungle monsters was increased from 60 to 360 to 100 to 360. His W also has a 50 damage minimum on jungle camps now. Although Urgot did make his surge in play as a jungler in the past, he hasn't been too popular there recently. With this buff, we expect players to play him much more often and begin flex picking him much more commonly. As a rather new pick, we'll leave him unrated for now, but let you guys know just how strong he is next patch. Sion was also buffed for the same reason. His Q's damage ratio to monsters has been increased from 1.0 to 1.5. With this buff, Scion has a much easier time clearing camps with multiple monsters in them. This should help him clear his jungle faster, but we doubt that Scion will rise to a dominant place in the jungle, so like Urgot, we'll leave him unranked for this patch. With that said, our jungle tier list remains unchanged as the nerfs we did see haven't had much of an impact this patch. We've got Evelynn and Graves in the OP tier, followed by Karthus, Kha'Zix, Nunu, Kayn, Rek'Sai, Elise, Fiddlesticks, and Hecarim in our S tier. That is it for the jungle, so let's head into the mid lane next. The mid lane list features 3 new changes, beginning with a nerf for Kassadin. There's an issue with him scaling up to become a monster. Kassadin's early game is rather weak, or at least it's supposed to be. Against AD champions, there's basically nothing a Kassadin player can do except hold on for dear life. While playing versus AP champions on the other hand, Kassadin has been getting away with a little bit too much. His Q shield value was decreased from 60 to 160 to 40 to 160. Ultimately, this will mean that even AP champions can fight back and have an easier time trading with Kassadin in the early game. 20 shield in the early game is a big deal. It's a big number that gets bigger with every successful trade. With some newly found early game vulnerability, we've decided to move Kassadin down into the A tier. Katarina was also given some nerfs this patch. The bonus AD ratio on Katarina's passive was reduced from 100% to 75%. Building both Hextech Gunblade and a Death Stance is a bit weaker starting this patch. Considering that most Katarina players opted into heavy AP builds, however, we haven't seen her win rate drop significantly. Unfortunately, this change does make it harder for players that prefer niche builds on her. While weaker, we noticed that Katarina was still finding success in high ELO. So, for now, we'll leave her in the S tier. She is getting close, though, to moving down a level. Ryze finally got a decent buff. His Q's damage was increased from 65 to 165 to 75 to 175. Immediately, we've seen Ryze's win rate jump up a bit, and we think it's time that we moved him into the A tier. He scales remarkably well, and once he finishes his tier, Ryze proves to be a formidable lane opponent equipped with high damage, great mobility, and excellent wave clear as well. Riot has been trying very hard to nail the balance for Ryze and allow him to see both competitive play as well as solo queue play without being super oppressive in either. Unfortunately, 10 damage is small, but this buff is big, even if it might not seem like it. We'll simply have to hope that he doesn't end up becoming absolutely broken in competitive play once again. Our OP tier for the mid lane is also the same from last patch, with Zed and Yone. Following them up in the S tier are Talon, Diana, Vladimir, Fizz, Katarina, Karthus, Galio, and Ahri. Fizz is a pick that's definitely worth watching out for. Kassadin's nerf has made it much easier for AP assassins in the mid lane. They can now trade more effectively and feel safer to blind pick now that Kassadin is a bit weaker than before. We've also moved Ahri into the S tier, in case you guys didn't catch that. Like Fizz, she benefited heavily from Kassadin's nerf, and she's slowly been making her rise to power in solo queue. She did receive various changes in the past few patches, and she's been feeling a bit stronger as a result. That covers the mid lane, so let's hop into the bottom lane next. There has only been one bottom lane change to document, so let's run through it really quickly. Varus hasn't been doing too hot at all. Nerf after nerf left him in shambles, and Riot assessed that he was worth buffing in this patch instead. His E's damage was increased from 50 to 210 to 60 to 220, while his R's cooldown was decreased from 130 to 70 to 120 to 60. Right off the bat, we've noticed that Varus's win rates have jumped, but not enough to merit moving him around the tier list. Varus's identity is currently lost. Compared to the other lane bullies, he doesn't feel like he's got the sauce. His Q used to be far more oppressive, and other champions like Caitlyn and Miss Fortune just seem a bit too powerful with their poke in comparison. Varus' scaling also falls short of many meta picks at the moment. For now, he'll remain in the B tier. Following up from last patch, we have placed Samira in, surprise surprise, the OP tier. She's tearing through her competition with her insane damage output as well as mobility and utility. Last patch was her introduction, and we only expect her win rate to continue increasing as players familiarize themselves with her gameplay. She's pretty amazing and has a lot going on with her kit, so our analysts have no problem placing her in the OP tier right off the bat. It's actually pretty insane that players are already pulling out a very impressive win rate with her, which means that she is definitely busted. While the patch is still rather fresh, we've noticed that her ban rate in high ELO has already topped 70%. This is record-breaking, and I know that you guys know that Samira is really damn strong. That is all we got for the bottom lane, so let's run through our S tier. In our S tier, we've got Caitlyn, Senna, Draven, Aphelios, Ashe, the Luxona duo, and Miss Fortune. Next, let's wrap things up with the supports. First for supports is a nerf to Lulu. The bonus attack speed on her W was reduced from being 25 to 45% to now being 20 to 35%. Lulu has been one of the premier supports of choice of basically the entire fanbase. Whether you were low ELO or high ELO, people were playing Lulu because she provided incredible amounts of value. Needless to say, she really helped her carries shine as her W would significantly increase their damage output. This patch, Riot has decided to make it so that Lulu gives a little bit less of a helping hand to her attack speed reliant carries. We'll leave Lulu in the S tier now because she's more than just an attack speed buffing bot. She has other abilities too, and they're all pretty solid. Braum received a hefty buff to his Q this patch as well. His Q's damage went up from 60 to 260 to 75 to 275, and the mana cost was decreased from 55 to 75 to 45 to 65. 15 more damage as well as a lower mana cost have actually bumped up Braum's win rate about a whole percent. In spite of his shortcomings in previous patches, he feels a bit more satisfying to play now. Landing his Q is so much more rewarding and actually applies a lot more kill pressure than before. 15 damage early on is a lot and still holds some weight as the game progresses. The decreased mana cost also means that players aren't punished as hard for whiffing a Q every once in a while. With that said, our supports S tier consists of Senna, Lulu, Thresh, Leona, Blitzcrank, Janna, Bard, Morgana, and Pantheon. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. That concludes our high ELO tier list for patch 10.20. Like always, I want to encourage you guys to go subscribe so you'll receive notifications for any informative content that we upload. We'll continue to keep you guys posted on the strength of champions in our mid-patch update, so make sure and do that. One more time though, make sure to also check out ProGuides.com for a ton of resources to help you improve. Until next time, best of luck on Summoner's Rift.